Okay, find a comfortable place to sit while watching this program. And while you're there, you can begin to let your breathing slow and relax. Nice, long, easy breaths. And let your eyes begin to defocus. As I read you this story, this metaphor, please forgive me. Let it go deep down into your unconscious mind, only to those places that will change the direction of what you want in life. And to change, now you must begin to learn the secrets of forgiveness. Please forgive me. And as I begin to read you this story by Dr. John Burton, called Leaves Forgiving,
I'm sorry.
you may find your own ways, I am sorry,
Thank you.
to be forgiving. Please forgive me. Because when you're forgiving, your manifestation, I love you, increases
I love you.
and grows. Your experience of life opens up and blossoms. So sit back, relax,
I love you.
take a deep breath, let your eyes defocus, and enjoy the journey. There is no right or wrong way to view this or to listen. I love you. There is only a way, I'm sorry, that you
Thank you.
decide, please forgive me, on how to listen
Sorry.
to get the absolute best results
I love you.
for you
Thank you.
at both the
I'm sorry.
unconscious level and the conscious level. I'm sorry. And I wouldn't want to suggest at this point that maybe you might consider, if you haven't already,
Thank you.
how forgiving can also be between your
I'm sorry.
conscious and unconscious mind. That's right.
I love you.
Between the inner parts of yourself
I love you. I
and
love you.
for those outside of yourself as well.
Thank you.
Leaves of forgiving.
I'm sorry.
Not long ago, I went on a hike in the mountains. I love you. There were two other people hiking with me.
Sorry.
One, my regular companion. I am sorry. And the other,
Thank you.
my brother. Please. In my mind, I had scripted the whole hiking experience. It seemed easy enough to create, since my companion and I had hiked this trail before.
I love you.
I wanted things to go a certain way so that my brother, who was visiting, could enjoy what was available on this
Sorry.
particular trail. You know how you try to control certain events and conditions? Well, I thought I could and would. We arrived at the trailhead dressed for the conditions, loaded with provisions, and began our trek. Oh, sure, I wondered what would happen, but felt sure it would be within the confines of my mind's narrow lanes. Call it anticipation, call it eagerness, but it seemed my
I
energy
love you.
at the start was more than necessary, excessive really, for the lengthy hike through the woods. I could feel I was expending too much too early, almost trying to rush the experience. I reset my focus on the here and now.
I'm sorry.
and just tried my best to soak up the surroundings, enjoy my fellow hikers,
I love you.
and see to it that my brother received an attentive
I
guide.
love you.
Shortly into the hike, we encountered the first of 3 intersections with other trails.
Please forgive me.
At each of the intersections, we were to take a particular direction onto a different trail and continue our adventure
I'm
until we
sorry.
completed a full loop through the mountain woods.
Thank
So
you.
early for such a big error. We went straight where we were supposed to turn right. It seemed like the correct path at the time somehow. Things along this trail seemed new,
I love
different, and unfamiliar. But the season was different this time than the last time through these woods. So we just figured there was really nothing to this odd feel we sensed. We continued hiking, looking for favorite and familiar landmarks. None to be found. Now, this really began to puzzle us, and some discomfort started from deep within. We kept on walking along our trail, on and on, but nothing was the same as before, season change or not. Suddenly, we saw a marking that confirmed we were off track and on a trail we'd not walked before.
you.
All at once, several emotions and thoughts surged through me.
I love you.
How far had we gone on this trail? Should we turn back and resume our original plan?
Please forgive
Where does this current trail go?
me.
How difficult is this trail?
Thank you.
While I had a trail map, it could not convey the degree of difficulty on this trail. The confusion, frustration, disappointment,
I
wishing,
love you.
hope, and anger rose within me. The gap between my desired experience and the one now in progress
Thank you.
was widening rapidly with increasing self-criticism.
I'm sorry.
I had somehow allowed this experience to turn into a mess with no easy fix.
I'm sorry.
We talked between us and agreed we would just press on along this trail and eventually hook up to the trail we'd intended to hike all
I
along,
love
just at another junction.
you. Thank you.
Whew. This new trail was a beast,
I love
treacherous and steep, both up and down hills. The risks grew as the terrain became more challenging. Fear crept in along with the already present anger and disappointment.
I love you.
I could not seem to stop myself from thinking about and rehashing my mistake and how this had messed up my whole plan for the hiking experience. I kept walking and thinking and criticizing,
Sorry.
and then it hit me.
I love you.
A low-hanging branch right across the forehead. Insult to injury was all I could think. This was just one more layer to an already thick pile of screw-ups. My awareness shrank even smaller as I focused only on this negativity.
I love you.
Now it ruled me,
I'm sorry.
my thoughts and feelings. At the same time, I noticed this incredibly tight, constricting feeling that came with this negativity. I then began to look forward in time and wondered if I'd feel this way through the whole hike. 2 more hours of this seemed more than I was willing to endure. Weird. I got angry at my anger, refusing it. Instead, I began to focus on the surroundings of the woods, the rock formations,
I love you.
the trees, the sounds of the water flowing in the distance,
Thank you.
and the feel of the ground. Interesting. This amazing rock face that I'd been cursing earlier, 150 feet in height, with loose stones at its feet,
Sorry.
had been so difficult to maneuver around and over.
Thank you.
Now, pausing in utter frustration, I really started to see
I love you.
I suddenly noticed that the rock face had such subtle color variations, from gray to deep burgundy, to golden tones and whites. The more I looked, the more I saw. It became beautiful right there and then. What a feeling to be in the presence of this magnificent beauty. This is what I came here for. Noticing now the release within of what I had been carrying. Way heavier than my backpack. To experience the depth and beauty of nature. I noticed the variations of the ground, the terrain from nearly level to uphill, and then steeply sloping back downhill. I also noticed the soil and the different textures. How interesting, and wondered how this came to be. Wood, water, soil, sky, and foliage. All as it is exactly supposed to be. Perfect. We began walking again. My pace changed this time. I wasn't so much trying to get through it now as I was trying to get into it. Looking at all the trees and different plant life, I remembered the arrangement that exists between the various trees and bushes. There is an amazing cooperative relationship among the green inhabitants of the woods. Trees actually communicate with each other. If one is lacking a particular nutrient, word is passed around until an available supply of that nutrient is found. This nutrient is then passed along the various root systems of the trees until it reaches the one in need. This arrangement extends to the ground level plant life as well. The bushes that grow under the canopy of the trees find it hard to acquire their nutritional needs. So in the cooperative spirit, the trees kindly drop their leaves, supplying the soil with all the nutrition needed by the bushes. And just what is it with all these different trees? I thought the trees were supposed to be a certain shape, mostly similar. Even the same kind of tree makes unique shapes each time. Some are arrow straight, and some quite curvy, yet each a perfect example of what it is, not what I thought it was supposed to be. Looking up at the sky, I noticed the clouds, their shades and shapes, always changing. I also realized that the moisture coming together to make these clouds is the same moisture that has been around for, well, just about forever. It is simply changing locations and forms. You know, from vapor to liquid, and sometimes to solid, and then back up and around again. Whether I'm here or there, it's all around, all the time. I noticed my senses seeing these amazing sights, hearing the sounds of the wind, different birds, the water, the trail beneath my feet as I walk, the sense of so many things changing as I walk through the different parts of the woods, feeling with my hands, and the feeling of it all within. I didn't know exactly where the trail would lead me, except that I eventually would be out of the woods, and that I'd have mixed feelings about this, yet appreciate them each. I began reflecting back on what I thought and felt earlier, and how it seemed miles and years away. The difference within me and how good this felt. I knew I wanted to remember what happened here this day, so I could use it well in my future. As I continued walking, I realized that part of what happened is that I had held something against myself and then released it, making all the difference in my experience. This release makes way for different and better. I now know this at a deeper level as forgiving. I'm sorry. I also want to remember to forgive in my future, so I decide this would be forgiving. Now, this was an interesting concept. Forgiving, as in future forgiveness of self. Just what symbol might I use to remind me of forgiving? Well, sure, a tree naturally. And then it only seemed natural to let each tree remind me of forgiveness. The release within that makes room for different and better. Because there are different reasons, ways, and types of forgiveness. I then thought about just how many trees I may have seen in my past, and then about how many trees I might see in my future. I also wondered whether I would remember and notice these forgiveness trees before, during, or after a challenge. Well then, this adds up to nothing accumulating, so nothing to forgive. Just enjoying the beauty around and within as each expresses in the ways it knows and feels as you do. And now, as you start to recognize the flow coming back into your life, you may start to realize that certain things, certain blockages that were once in your way have now opened up new pathways of flowing in your life. And as the flow, the nurturing flow continues to nourish all those goals and desires that you have had and wanted to manifest. Like a tree in need of water, the flow within you feeds the root systems of all your manifesting desires. So begin to orient yourself back into the room. Begin to notice where you're at, forgetting and letting go all those things that used to be in the way and now have opened up new doors and new flow into your life. That's right, and I wonder how many different ways and how many different root systems will be fed by this new flow of forgiveness. I'm sorry. Please.